this is ASUNCION Angel from Naga College Foundation, and you are listening to the Sit Chat podcast. This podcast will show you how cryogenic works. Just sit, relax, listen, and chat with us. Today, on November 7, 2022, at early in the morning, with Miss Juliana Castro, we are talking about cryogenics and how it works. With Juliana Castro, who will discuss everything about cryogenics.
Hello, everyone. You're listening to Miss Juliana Castro. This podcast will not be completed without me. Haha. So let's get started. Before we start to our sit chat, I just want to ask you, how are you all conditioned? Today is a stormy day, so please keep dry and safe. Now, let's begin. Cryogenic is the production and behavior of materials at a very low temperature. It is the act of preventing living things from decomposing by keeping them at extremely low temperatures, whether they are cells, tissues, organs, or entire body. Best described, cryonic is the technique used to store human bodies at extremely low temperatures, with the hope of one day reviving them, is being performed today. But the technology is still in its infancy. The idea is that if someone has died from a disease that is incurable today, he or she can be frozen and then revive in the future when a cure has been discovered. A person preserved it this way is said to be in cryonic suspension.
Miss Juliana, cryogenic is the ultra-cold temperatures change the chemical properties of materials, isn't it?
Yes, Miss Angel. This has become an area of study for researchers who examine different materials as they transition from gas to liquid to a solid state. These studies have led to advances in not only our understanding of different materials, but the creation of entirely new technologies and industries. And the temperature of any material is the measure of the energy that it contains. Rapidly moving molecules have a higher temperature than moving molecules.
I love how you deliver and discuss with us about cryogenics, Miss Juliana. Very informative. Before I discuss how cryogenic works, we will be back after the commercial. Stay tuned because we have something important fun facts about cryogenics that truly you will enjoy.
All we got is time, so stay a while, stay a while. All we got is time, so stay a while, stay a while.
Hello again, everyone. We are back. Are you still there? I hope you're still there. Because now, let us start again our Sit Chat podcast with our episode entitled How Cryogenic Works and What It Is All About. Now, here's a fun fact. Did you all know that the word cryogenics comes from the Greek word kairos, which means cold? This combined with the abbreviated English word to generate make the word we known as cryogenics. Temperatures that are very cold are not measured in degrees Fahrenheit or Celsius, but in kelvins.
Here's another interesting thing that may caught your attentions. Cryogenics' supposed goal is to keep the body intact until medical science progresses enough to cure whatever diseases has afflicted to the body and restore the person to full health.
Miss Juliana, can you discuss with us what cryogenic is used for?
Cryogenics is used in a variety of applications. It can be used to produce cryogenic fields for rockets, in MRI machines that use liquid helium and require cryogenic cooling, storing large quantities of food, special effects fog, recycling freezing blood, and tissue samples, and even cooling superconductors. Cryosurgery is a type of surgery that uses cryogenic temperatures to eliminate unwanted tissue or tumors. Historically, cryosurgery has been used to treat a variety of diseases, most commonly tanning and malignant skin conditions. This type of surgery is effective because it works by using the freezing temperatures on cells that need to be removed from the body. Ice crystals begin to form on the cell and ultimately tear them apart.
Adding additional knowledge for you to know from listening to Chat podcast, here is another answer what cryogenic is used for. They are cryogenics, cryosurgery, which these two are already discussed by Miss Juliana. And next, cryoelectronic, cryobiology, food preservation, transportation of gases, cryotherapy, and cryonics. All of this will be explained by your duos, which is me, ASUNCION Angel, and Juliana Castro. Now let's begin again. Cryoelectronic, the ultra-frozen temperatures provided by cryogenic fluids allow electrons in materials to travel freely and with little resistance. This is extremely beneficial for superconductors and spaceship designs. For example, when preserved as cryogenic fluids, oxygen and hydrogen are very beneficial sources that may be employed to power space rockets.
Cryobiology is a study of effects of low temperatures on organisms. There are six major areas of cryobiology: the study of cold adaptation of microorganisms, plants, animals, and vertebrates; cryopreservation of cell tissues and embryos, use in vitro fertilization; preservation of organs, lithophilization; the freeze drying of parameuticals. Cryosurgery falls under this category, supercooling as applied to biological systems.
Food preservation to preserve packaged food such as produce, the food items can be sprayed with liquid nitrogen to absorb the heat within the produce. Eventually, the nitrogen evaporates before the food is consumed. With this application of cryogenics, food can be kept preserved longer without any chemical threat to human consumption. Did you all know that transportation of gases cryogenics is also used to transport gases that are not typically cryogenic? For example, using cryotechnology, gases can be transformed into liquids to make them easier to transport from one place to another. Take natural gas LNG, which is a combination of ethane, methane, and other gases. When these gases become liquefied, they take up far less space than if they remain gaseous. Therefore, transportation expenses become lower and the process become much easier.
Cryotherapy is a term used to describe when the human body is exposed to extremely cold temperatures. The most common use of these applications is the new trend of cytopass. In these areas, people can stand in cryosauna filled with cryogenic fluids for several minutes. Studies have shown that this treatment throws many benefits to the body, such as reducing inflammation, increasing energy, managing pain, and even can boost metabolism. Amongst other claims, research on cytotherapy is still very new, and benefits have not been fully researched or understood.
Cryonics, the cryopreservation of animals and humans, is called cryonics. Researchers in this field give their subjects hope that by freezing their bodies, they may be able to resuscitate them in the future. Hundreds of people and their pets are currently frozen via cryopreservation worldwide. The science of cryonics is not proven, and most scientists are dubious of the claims. Thank you. That is the answer what cryogenic is used for. I hope everyone is still listening to us because there is so much more knowledge that you will all know from us. We will now proceed to the next part of our chat, which is how cryogenic works, and it will be explained by your host, Angel ASUNCION. Now, here is a short, brief explanation of some of our knowledge that we have read and learned from our research that you will also learn from listening to CChat podcast. The technology behind cryogenic preservation has been around since 1960s, but it is carried out in only 3 clinics, 2 in the United States and 1 in Russia, and only a few hundred bodies have been frozen in this way. The idea is that if a body is cooled quickly enough, it will avoid the oxygen deprivation, which causes most damage to the brain, and that a body thus preserved could be revived years or decades in the future and cured of whatever illness was the cause of death. As soon as possible after death, the body is put in an ice bath, the blood is removed, and the body is pumped full of a solution designed to preserve the organs. It remains packed in ice as it is shipped to the cryonics facility where the body is cooled by nitrogen gas, bringing the temperature down to 110 degrees Celsius. The temperature is lowered even further to minus 196 degrees Celsius over the next 2 weeks before the body is suspended in a tank of liquid nitrogen until the day it will be revived. Let me give you listeners again another interesting thing that we want to share with you about cryogenics. Cryonics is the practice of preserving human bodies in extremely cold temperatures with the hope of reviving them in the future. The idea is that if someone has died from a disease that is incurable today, he or she can be frozen and then revived in the future when a cure has been discovered. A person preserved this way is said to be in cryonic suspension. To understand the technology behind cryonics, think about the news stories you have heard of people who have fallen into an ice lake and have been submerged for up to an hour in the fridge water before being rescued. The ones who survived did so because the icy water put their body in a sort of suspended animation, slowing down their metabolism and brain function to the point where they needed almost no oxygen. Cryonic is a bit different from being resuscitated after falling into an icy lake, though. First, it's illegal to perform cryonic suspension on someone who is still alive. People who undergo this procedure must first be pronounced legally dead. That is, their heart must have stopped beating. But if they're dead, how can they ever be revived? According to scientists who perform cryonics, legally dead is not the same as totally dead. Total death, they say, is the point at which all brain function ceases. Legal death occurs whom the heart has stopped beating, but some cellular brain function remains. Cryonics preserves the little cell function that remains so that, theoretically, the person can be resuscitated in the future. How amazing how does cryogenic works! Right, Miss Juliana? I am really amazed by this process. Imagine body being preserved through cryogenic.
Even I, Miss Angel, is really amazed by this topic for this episode in Sit Chat podcast.
Okay, let us now end here our seat chat because I already know that our listeners have much knowledge that puts from seat chat podcast. Goodbye, everyone. Goodbye, Philippines C-Chat Podcast. Expecting a lot of knowledge from all of you. Me and my team from C-Chat Podcast, we're glad that we help some of you. Thank you for listening and goodbye. Keep safe, everyone.